What's going on, everyone? So, we got some news in regards to the upcoming Resident Evil film for Sony. So, Zach Cregger, who directed Barbarian, is reportedly in talks to direct a Resident Evil film for Sony. Now, Barbarian was a interesting film, to say the least. I won't really spoil much on the film just because, I don't want to take away from people that maybe haven't seen it yet. But it's really kind of one of those films that a little bit of a trip. I don't know how well that would translate to a Resident Evil film. I mean, you could argue given the way that it kind of ends. People seem to really love or hate Barbarian. I kind of personally, I was indifferent about it. I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. I liked that it was creative. I liked that it was a different type of horror film. Kind of was like these two films in one almost. But, I thought it was a little ridiculous, personally. But I enjoyed it, right? It's something that I think, you got to at least check it out once. But I do applaud the creativity. I do applaud the originality of that film and not just doing another remake like Resident Evil, right? Now, is anyone else just kind of burnt out with all these remakes, right? And the problem is they're not most of them are not even good. I mean, think of the Halloween trilogy that came out. Like Halloween Kills is kind of split. People seem to either love or hate it. You look at Halloween Ends, that consensus is that movie was terrible, right? I'm sure there's people that like it, but the consensus was that was terrible. Exorcist the Believer was so bad that everyone got fired on it, right? You're just seeing these films over and over and over again, and we're getting a new, another Scream sequel. Okay, fine. I'm hoping that one's better. Even Scream 5 and 6, they weren't bad, but they weren't super great in my opinion. They're watchable, sure. None of these sequels have been just man, this is what we need. And it's with the Resident Evil, it's do we really need another sequel? Right? Do we need another film? I mean, first off, the original, what was 6 films or whatever? Those original six films with Mila were not even 10 years ago? Or maybe by the time this movie comes out, it'll have been 10 years? So is that now the threshold for reboots and remakes and stuff? Right? And I mean, they've made other films, right? Some of the animated films have actually been pretty good, but they did the what it was Welcome to Raccoon City and stuff like that, and that was terrible. It's just, I don't know. It's just am I gonna watch it? Sure, probably at some point, but it's just, look, good story, good execution. For being honest, outside of the first, maybe the second Resident Evil film, right? The first Resident Evil Apocalypse, I thought was alright. But the more that these films went on, the more that they kind of were kind of a little ridiculous. I mean, they were fun, right? They're enjoyable, right? All of them, in my opinion, were just they were what they were. They were just these over the top, game adaptations, kind of, right? And they were fun films, right? It was just okay, here's another film. You just kind of, it's a film that you go in, kind of turn your brain off, and just see some cool action scenes and some zombies, right? Cool. But at what point does that kind of become all right? We've seen this 100 times already, right? Now, again, maybe good storytelling, good writing, good execution, good delivery, that could go a long way. You get some good acting, right vision of directing. I'll give it a chance, of course. I'm always going to give these films a chance. I'm always going to give these films a shot. But, it's just, I don't know. No one thinks it's crazy that, it's been, 10 years and they're supposed to be making a remake. They're supposed to be making, a reboot. What's the cutoff? Where's the line here, right? Can we let things marinate? I mean, these movies still play, regularly on television, right? The later sequels. Play regularly on television, sci-fi and stuff like that. But I digress. Let's get into the meat and potatoes here. Just kind of wanted to get that out. Of course, here are thoughts and opinions. But yeah, so Zach Cregger is going to direct this Resident Evil reboot. He has left the Clue movie in order to make this happen. So based on the report, within 72 hours, and Cregger formally passing on Clue, apparently due to an issue of money, Sony offered him $1.5 million against $4 million. The filmmaker is now attached to helm the studio's Resident Evil reboot, and Sony can afford to meet Cregger's quota for that project. So basically, it was money. They were like, hey, we'll give you the money that you need to get this done, where I guess looks like he wanted more money for the Clue movie that they weren't willing to give. So they're like, here's a Resident Evil reboot. So now we'll see. Again, like, they came out with, the Raccoon City, and my opinion, that movie was terrible. I don't know how you feel. Let me know how you feel down in the comments. But, his big, like, kind of claim to fame was the Barbarian, which was successful, right? It grossed $45 million against a $4.5 million budget. So basically 10x its money. So he is a guy that was able to have this track record of, like, success on unlimited budgets, and that kind of appears to kind of be the case in this upcoming Resident Evil. They're hopeful that they can kind of replicate that, right? Kind of, hey, here's a couple million, turn it into tens of millions type thing. But Cregger has shot his next film, Weapons, recently dated for January 16, 2026, releasing coming to us with a very high expectations. Cregger's script was so hot that it spawned a bidding war between multiple studios. Warner Brothers, New Line won the rights, buying it for a whopping $38 million. Don't be surprised if Weapons movies moves its release date to the summer or fall of 2025. It's supposed to test screen this week, and reactions, if glowing, could convince Warner Brothers to give it an early rollout, especially since the film wrapped principal photography in the summer. That 2026 date always seemed a little off. Talking about the Weapons, which is another film which, it's Hollywood. Right, you see a lot of people, you have a string of success, all of a sudden, it's like, guess what? You're just going to keep rattling off said success. And then you become hot, and then now everyone wants you. So we'll see if, like, that Weapons movie has some success. If that has success, then that just further validates and kind of rewards Cregger for, being the director and writer and whatnot that he is. And could potentially lead to a good film. That, at the end of the day, that's all I want. Just give me a good film. Just give me a good story, right? Give me good acting, good execution. Like, no one's going into Resident Evil expecting it to be like this Oscar-worthy film, right? We all know what it is, right? We all know what the deal is, what the gist of it is, and, like, what to kind of expect out of it. That's why I even talked about, the sequels. Yeah, they're a little ridiculous. Yeah, they're a little, like, they're not like the greatest movies, but they're fun, right? They're entertainment. You just kind of go in, like I said, turn your brain off, kick back, watch some people get some, turn into zombie, watch some people, kill some zombies, watch some fight scenes, right? See some crazy monsters, right? Like, all of these things, like, that's the idea. Okay, cool. Like, I'm okay with that, but I still would like, I'd like you to try. Right? Like, I'm not big on, like, the cash grab thing, right? Because every movie is a cash grab. Like, no one's making a movie to go, like, outside of, like, like you and your buddies. Talk about, like, real, like, studios and stuff like that. Like, no one's making a movie to go to theaters to not make money, right? Like, no one's like, you know what? Let's spend $5 million to make a movie that just doesn't make money, right? Let's lose the whole $5 million today. Obviously, some movies go that route, and, they're write-offs and stuff like that. Some movies don't even get produced or never even come out, right? They get done, but they just don't come out because it's a write-off, right? But, like, the idea when you make a movie is to make a profit, right? So, every movie is a cash grab to an extent, but there's cash grabs, like, hey, this is a movie that's trying to make some money through an IP or whatever. And then there's, like, okay, they didn't even try. This is solely just to pull out and suck out as much money as possible and call it a day. Right? Like, that's what I hope doesn't. But here's the thing. Chances are, if this movie is good, right, we're probably going to get another 10 of them, right? Like, I don't see them doing a Resident Evil reboot. It has a bunch of success, and they just go, okay, well, that was cool, let's stop. No, we're probably going to get another 6 films. No, which again, okay, fine, as long as it's good, as long as you're telling a good story, as long as you have clear direction, right? Like, sure, but I don't know, it's like every day we're getting like a new reboot of something that we saw 10 years ago, right? Again, these movies are still like in circulation. They play like regularly on television. And like I'll just be like scrolling through the channel sometimes, and it's like there's like 5 different Resident Evil movies on various networks and stuff. It's like these aren't like movies that like they're 30 years old, and it's like I get it, right? Like you see some of these movies, right? Even like the Exorcist reboot or sequel, right? Like that was like a sequel to like the original and all. Like okay, like, but I at least gave it time. Like this is just like these movies just came out like yesterday. And you're already like, hey, let's pump out another 6. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but that's why it's always a discussion. So as always, I pass the question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Do you agree? Do you think like, yeah, it's silly. It's getting crazy at this point. Do you think, no, like, hey, give it a chance. It'll probably be good. Let's see how it goes. How do you feel? Whatever your thoughts are. Let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. So we enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one.